Looking for a smart movie that'll make you question everything even after the credits roll, in less time than it takes you to find something to watch, I'm going to show you 10 films that'll mess with your mind like a puzzle you can't quite solve. Complex, thought-provoking movies that'll leave you lost in thought for days.
Oh, you think that's weird?
A little.
But first up, we've got a low-budget but incredibly mind-bending flick from Japan titled Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. One of the more interesting, low-budget time travel paradoxes out there, maybe second to films like Primer. This one's also a lot of fun. It never takes itself too seriously, but the setup here is you're dealing with a time paradox that's occurring between two TV monitors. Two monitors in the same building, but they're playing back what happened 2 minutes prior or 2 minutes in the future, depending on which monitor you're looking at. And that very simple setup makes for an incredibly compelling, albeit short, movie.
僕が現在の僕で、僕が2分後の僕で、僕が
So this one never wears out its welcome, but it keeps you on your toes. You can currently catch Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes for free on Tubi, but this particular list, I didn't check to see where they were available before making it, so be sure to check the end of the video where I always put a list recap that also includes where you can stream these movies. I put a list at the end of every single video, but those lists are always subject to change. Now, even though that pick was kind of light and fun, my next one deals with some time paradoxes in a more grim manner with Triangle.
You know what I do when I have a bad dream? Close my eyes, and I think of something nice.
Now, as you might suspect, this takes place inside the Bermuda Triangle, and it makes for a pretty killer horror flick that has some similar time paradoxes in it. Now, even though this is a list of real mind-bending, puzzling movies, this is maybe the simplest one on this list, yet it is far from simple. What I love about Triangle is that it does feel kind of like a by-the-book horror movie for a large portion of it, but as the time paradox stuff starts to ramp up as you go through this movie, a triangle becomes increasingly more complicated, which is where most of the fun of this movie comes from, is how interesting and unique all of those little paradox things can be. It's surprising there aren't more movies that take place within the Bermuda Triangle. I can think of a handful, but this is probably my favorite. In 1846, the book The Double was released by Dostoevsky. This book would later be kind of loosely adapted into the movie Fight Club. They also did a direct adaptation with Jesse Eisenberg, but another loose adaptation that I really enjoy is from the director of Dune, Denis Villeneuve, and it stars Jake Gyllenhaal in Enemy.
Hello?
Good afternoon.
Hey.
No, I'm calling to speak to
Where are you calling from?
I'm sorry. I think there's been a
Who
misunderstanding.
is this?
Okay, I'll call back later.
Now, even though I enjoyed the more honest adaptation with the Jesse Eisenberg version of The Double, Enemy is a wild one, and it builds upon most of the same ideas, and it's somehow just much more of a mind bender. In this version, Jake Gyllenhaal plays kind of an average guy who's watching a movie one night and discovers that there's an actor that looks exactly like him. It's his doppelganger, like without a doubt. But as he begins to investigate things, Enemy only becomes stranger. Yet Denis Villeneuve just does an amazing job with cinematography. This can be a breathtaking movie at times. It's really moody and eerie at other times. And it ultimately builds up towards a moment that is guaranteed to leave you scratching your head. But as bizarre as things get in Enemy, I'm telling you, all the information that you need to solve this puzzle is there. It's in the movie. It's one you're not really going to understand what's going on as soon as the credits roll, but if you give it enough time, again, those clues are there, and those final bizarre moments do mean something. Next up, I've got a wild one starring Andrew Garfield, like one of the movies on this list that has the most puzzling elements in it. But I did want to first point out I've got brand new shirts available at darrenvandam.com/shop. We've got Late Night with Conan the Barbarian, Full Commando, Hasta La Vista, as well as all the old designs still available. And the shirts are ridiculously soft. They're 100% cotton, but it's ring spun cotton, which is just like so soft to the the touch. I'll also say, I've washed mine a bunch. These shirts stay black. They do not get a faded look to them. If you like your shirts loose, definitely consider going a size up with these things, but if you like them to fit snug, again, these are amazing. They fit great. It's a great way to support the show while also showing off your great taste in movies. But speaking of great taste in movies, let's move on with my next pick, Under the Silver Lake.
Maybe there are people out there who are more important than us, more powerful, communicating things in the world that are meant for only them and not for us.
Yeah,
Oh, you think that's weird?
a little.
Now, this was the follow-up film from the director of It Follows, and he really went for it with this movie. It is such a bizarre flick, yet it is jam-packed with clues to a bigger, broader story that, honestly, Under the Silver Lake never really bothers to explain to you. I would say anyone who loves escape rooms or really detailed puzzles, Under the Silver Lake is loaded with them. In fact, if you do not solve a lot of the little puzzles in Under the Silver Lake, this movie's probably going to piss you off. It's going to feel like it's incomplete, like it wasted your time. Yet if you do solve some of them, there's actually quite a payoff with this one. It's not a masterpiece of a movie or anything. In fact, it's too strange to really be considered a masterpiece, but if you like weird stuff, this one's got weird stuff in spades. Yet again, as bizarre as all the little details are and as out there and as fever dream-like as some of this stuff is, it does have a point, or rather a bunch of points that, again, you can solve if you're so inclined. Now, the same thing could be said about my number 6 pick, yet it's not quite as intense. The story in my next pick is maybe more intense than Under the Silver Lake, but the puzzle is not nearly as complicated in resolution.
Where did this come from? Found this library book on our doorstep.
What was that?
Mike, it's an old house. It's gonna make noise sometimes.
Now, just like Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, this one is a very low budget. In fact, the creators here, Moorhead and Benson, have gone on to make some really fantastic movies like The Endless, but they actually bankrolled Resolution with their own checking account. And you can kind of tell that this is a low budget effort, yet the mind-bending elements in Resolution ultimately take over, they consume the story, and this thing punches well above its own weight. Speaking of The Endless, if you've seen that movie, it's actually connected to their first film here. Now, I will say it's got a very slow burn. It takes quite a while for this one to get started before anything incredibly interesting happens, but once that starts to occur, this movie grabs a hold of you and does not let go. So be willing to give this one more than 15 minutes to get started, but again, once it gets going, it's hard to put this one down. Now, nearly anything directed by Christopher Nolan, almost anything, could have found a place on this list, but because I'm trying to recommend some lesser-known movies here, I decided to go with his first film, Following. Now, this is also done on a very low budget, but my goodness, is Nolan a brilliant filmmaker when it comes to mind-bending stuff. Now, there's nothing supernatural in Following. The setup here is you're following a guy who decides to follow people, follow strangers, see where they go, what they do, what their day is like.
It was supposed to just be completely random, and when it stopped being random, that's when it started to go wrong. That's when the trouble started.
But as he's doing this, someone notices him, and this person, with the name Cobb, the same name DiCaprio had in Inception, he actually turns out to be a thief, and he ends up training this guy how to be a thief as well. They're doing small B&Es, little home invasions, where they're just kind of taking trinkets, maybe moving things around, kind of messing with people a little bit, and that is the setup. That's kind of all you need to know. Now, what Nolan does with that is, like, honestly beyond brilliant. I will say this movie does play with time. He just cannot help himself. It's all done with editing, kind of in a Tarantino style, but it works for Following. This thing's loaded with twists you're not gonna see coming, and as early Christopher Nolan, I mean, it is just a total gem. It's damn near a masterpiece, and he did this for like $10,000. It was like little to no money. If you've never seen a movie like this, Following could potentially change your entire outlook on filmmaking. Again, something this brilliant was made with relatively no money compared to every other movie ever made. Now, I'll say my next selection is one of the older movies on this list, and you will have to read subtitles, even though they did do an American remake with Kiefer Sutherland that I don't think is nearly as good as the original, The Vanishing. The original here was released in 1988 in the Netherlands. A young couple are on a vacation road trip when the woman goes missing. She vanishes from, I believe, a convenience store, and after 3 years of nothing, no trace of her, the guy ends up receiving letters from the abductor. Now that's just the setup. What you get is kind of an incredible mystery movie that just never quits. Like, it just grabs you, does not let go. Again, the remake also stars Jeff Bridges. It's okay, like it's a faithful remake, but the original, there's something about it that is just so much more chilling than the remake. It's also a long one. It's like 2.5 hours. But by the time you get to the end, oh my goodness, is The Vanishing a mind-blowing movie. Unfortunately, I don't see this one available anywhere right now for streaming, but it does come on and off of some of the major streaming services. So be on the lookout for one of the two versions of The Vanishing. I strongly recommend the 1988 original, though. Next up, I've got a Hitchcock-style thriller, absolutely loaded with twists I never saw coming. I mean, maybe too many twists if I'm being really honest, yet I still strongly recommend The Invisible Guest. So this one starts off with an incredible hook. A guy wakes up in a hotel room locked from the inside with the dead body of his woman, but the bulk of the movie is a conversation between him and his lawyer piecing together what happened over the course of, I believe, several months. So it's a big, long, complicated story, yet it keeps coming back to almost an interrogation between him and his lawyer. This one's also well over 2 hours, loaded with twists and turns, and not just twists and turns that surprise you. I mean, good quality Hitchcock-style twists and turns. Again, almost too many to really recommend this movie. It's exhausting by the time you get to this one. If you enjoy it though, my last video on the channel was a Netflix list that also featured a movie from this same director titled Mirage. That one's got a bit more of a supernatural element to it, but it too packed with twists and turns. But my number 2 pick is the Mickey Rourke classic Angel Heart.
You want me to check it out?
Now, right up front, if you've never seen it, this is an incredibly dark, disturbing movie. I often make lists of dark, disturbing movies, but this is not one of them, so I wanted to warn folks. There are some severely twisted elements to this movie, but Mickey Rourke plays kind of a small-time, heavy-drinking private investigator in 1950s New Orleans. He gets hired by a man named Louis Cypher. You can figure out what that name means on your own. He's played by De Niro. It's an amazing De Niro performance, even though he's not in this movie very much. But the investigation he's on is really just the setup. This thing just descends into madness. It's almost like a fever dream, yet a beautiful one. I mean, it's a stunning movie, and if you've never seen it, and you don't bother trying to decipher what his name means, this one's got some wild twists and turns in it. I mean, ones that will shock you. Honestly, though, the movie's so good, even if you know what Robert De Niro is up to, the twist still hit hard in this one because of how effective they are. But as far as puzzling movies that are really effective, even though Angel Heart is a damn near a masterpiece, nothing's quite as effective as my number 1 pick, which is a Japanese anime titled Perfect Blue. Now, I'll tell you right up front, even if you've never watched anime before, if you're intrigued by this list, you need to watch this movie. Now, I'll say, Perfect Blue is disturbing as well. It's not pervasive throughout the entire movie, but there are some themes of sexual exploitation, I'm going to leave it at that, that are pretty disturbing for an animated movie like this, yet they are insanely effective. Now, Perfect Blue is a mind trip of a movie. It makes a surprising amount of sense. It's one of those movies where you're not really going to know where it's headed or why such strange things are happening for most of the viewing experience, and the Japanese animation style actually works perfectly for the story that they're telling and the characters, and if anything, it actually helps elevate the story that they're actually telling here. I'll say Paprika is another one that I've recommended on somewhat recent videos. If you enjoyed Paprika, check out Perfect Blue, but expect much more of a David Lynch style of a movie with Perfect Blue rather than kind of a sci-fi epic. But here's a quick recap of the list. Again, I've listed some places currently hosting these same movies, but their availability will change, and the movies listed here can often be found on one streaming service or another. If not right now, they'll likely be available on some soon, so keep your eyes peeled, but I'll keep making these videos as long as y'all keep watching them. Thanks for watching this special episode, and you will see me on the next one.